I want to continue that conversation, how to bridge the gap between the CMO and the CIO. In your opinion, is there a chasm? And if so, how wide is it? And if it is a wide chasm, there's only one more question to come. How do you bridge it?
The most important piece around the work that I'm seeing is quite often the industries that I'm working in, the CIO is very much in a governed, making sure that the back-end systems work, and there is still a big chasm between delivering real new value on new channels. And I'm working now to say, well, we need to almost break the current CIO mindset and paradigm. We're calling it bimodal, it's a new word. In other words, there's somebody responsible for keeping the lights on and making sure that the guys at home get their cell phones and connectivity and everything works. And there's this new person who is outward facing, working with the CMO and the chief sales teams and the new channels that are coming to market, omni-channel and new methods. These have been around for a long time, but in many of the organizations, they're just not familiar with how to make this work for them. They need to have a tech fresh paradigm of what tech can do. And they need to have a very good understanding of what's happening in that space. I mean, most of the boards that I deal with and coach are in excess of 50, 55, audit comms in the 70s. To them, understanding Instagram and how this all is going to flow, but it's very, very difficult. And you've got to help the exec go, not feel so anxious about opening up these new methods and paradigms. Now, it sounds simple, but for them, it's very difficult.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think it would be very difficult to find such an individual. I think that individual would be very unique, almost someone who is optimal on both sides of the brain, where a CIO is probably stronger on an analytical side and a CMO is much more creative. So it's a unique individual. However, I think the approach, which is, perhaps I'm paraphrasing what you're saying, is that we should not silo these two functions in a business. When you silo them, they're going to always debate, argue, and protect each other's dignity, really, or their own dignities. And I think there's much more room for collaboration. I think that's what needs to be broken. I think the way that it can be broken is if everyone aligns on a single purpose. And I think that purpose can work on the analytical and the creative side of the brain. And that purpose, in a very generic way, would be, we need to add value to our customers. And once you align on that and you find the right collaboration tools, then I think once you agree on the metrics to measure and whether your efforts are working and those metrics move, I think that you can actually get to a pretty optimal organization.
Angus, how do you align then to a single purpose?
Strong leadership has to be. Without that strong leadership, you're nowhere. If you just take, an organization like Microsoft, 4 years ago under Steve Ballmer, it was all over the place. It was bumbling from one failure to another. New CEOs, Satya Nadella comes in and aligns the entire organization around the customer and around taking on the customer's view, put them back on the map. Microsoft is now the new darling, where the Apples of the world are now falling behind. It's a very different world, and a lot of that's come from extremely strong, innovative leadership that understands what the customer wants, and a lot of that customer is driven by the early adopters on social media.
So I think leadership is about framing the ability to cut hard and cut through the noise and see whether people aren't doing the things they said they were going to do. There's three things the leaders have to go and do. Definitely customer intimacy, attaching to channel, knowing as more about your customer, because that's important. You need to defend and grow, and that's massive. That's a massive challenge. Your own internal products and services, if they're not defined well, or clarity and the value propositions are not clear, and you can't deliver it, that's a massive challenge. That comes to the third point, operational excellence. So those three things have got to be top of mind. So you've got to be always innovating on those three dimensions as an executive. And the biggest challenge is you've got to be hiring people that are smarter than you. You've got to hire people that are better than you.
I agree that one should hire people who are smarter than you. You should surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. However, the problem is that everyone has a certain perspective on the problem and on the world. And there needs to be a single person who has a vision that brings people in line. So I think that's where the leadership quality really comes in, is the ability to have a crystal clear vision and the ability to create a strategy around it and to arrange, organize, and manage these people that are smarter than you to execute it for you, to find the right solutions for you.
How do we prepare these people for the different worlds they're operating in? And these people might go to China, where WeChat is bigger than all the platforms we're speaking about. Okay, WeChat is the Uber app. You know, they're going to have to market in that organization and think differentially. So, you know, and Gibbs has got programs where it's international exposure and other things, but we're getting a bit insular. We need to be more creative, and we need to break down some of the traditional ways that we train and teach people.
The leader then needs to be inspirational enough to convince people to, well, I don't want to say follow him, but go together.
How do you become digitally inspiring?
Well, that's where the right talent comes in. So a leader is able to have that vision, and also to know how to put together a strategy and an execution plan, and also know how to measure it as in real time as possible, so that you can actually track to it, so that you can ensure that you're tracking to that vision. So I think that's where the CIO and the CMO come in, when that leader kind of aligns with them. So the CIO is, again, the person with the one side of the brain who's very analytical, very, you know, pragmatic, I guess, execution driven, and the CMO has a front-facing vision that needs the tools that a CIO can help enable. In order to translate a vision into a strategy, into an execution plan, and have the different components, you know, work together in a non-siloed way, there needs to be ways of measuring it that everyone agrees on.
So make sure that you are measuring the right things, communicating that to the organization, and providing some sort of reward framework, whether it's bonuses or bar ones. You know, you need to decide what level you want to be going at. And then on the other end of risk reward models, some of the big organizations, the Accentures, the IBMs, and those kind of guys, those are massive projects, cost lots of money. But a lot of them are moving to a risk reward model, where you say, we're not going to bill you our X thousand an hour. We'll come in and work with you on a risk model to say, let's test this hypothesis or the assumptions that we are trying to do. Let's build a product. If that product has the following successes, we want to share in that success. That then aligns everyone together.
The leadership are product people. Obviously, again, the cliches, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, they product people. But you can see that there's a bit of a switch, there's a bit of a reversal, where the leader is now the person who actually, when we spoke about vision, it's a person who can be visionary because he understands product. And most organizations are not built that way, but that could be something that, you know, I would encourage leaders to, excuse the French, not believe their own bullshit, and really empower people and put people in a position that could take digital and the whole data debate that we had in the last conversation, and put that in terms, apply to the vision.
And there's things you can and cannot control in many organizations. The things that you can control inside your own organization is to digitally readiness. You know, the digital readiness of your own organization is critical. It's paramount. You can do what you want in that framework, but if you can't deliver and you can't make it work, and you're not influencing that discussion, whether it's with the chief sales officer, the CFO, your operations team, if you're not having that discussion right now, then you've got a problem. Your business needs to be fluid, it needs to be frictionless, and you should be having that conversation right now.
So my advice to the CMO would be, accept that there's a beast, understand that the beast will always evolve, and in order to catch up, you need to build yourself some fundamentals. To build yourself some fundamentals, open your mind and educate yourself. And like we said earlier, surround yourself with the right talent, the right people, and lastly, refer back to your vision and remove the fluff if it does not align with your vision.
You could either wake up from the dream and think it was a nightmare, or it was a fluffy, cuddly beast. So you need to decide how you want to deal with it. In many organizations, don't look at it as a noose around your neck and be paralyzed. It's never too late to start. If you look at virtually all the organizations that are successful now, Facebook wasn't the first social media platform. MySpace was out there. If you look at WhatsApp, there were the likes of Mixit and a whole lot of others before it. It's never too late to build the next great business, because there'll always be the next great business being built. but make sure you do something differently and do something with purpose that changes the way that people engage with you, because that's going to make the difference.